Hi everyone, I'm Megan Ernst, and I'll be discussing Laurel Thatcher Ulrich's article titled John Winthrop's City of Women. So in this particular essay, Ulrich is reconsidering John Winthrop's journal, a very widely read journal in American history. She's reconsidering that with gender at the center of her interpretation, and her analysis here really shows how much women's everyday activities really played a part in New England politics and religion, and that women were much more historical agents rather than subjects. And so this can be seen throughout the 1630s, at a time when religious tensions were very high, beginning with the gathering of women. So things like Bible discussions, spiritual reflections, even the meetings of midwives, those all began as small private meetings, but quickly grew into something much more public. And so Anne Hutchinson is a prime example of this. Her meetings to discuss the weekly sermons and biblical interpretations became very popular and attracted not only dozens of women, but many prominent men as well. And Hutchinson's dichotomies were really tearing apart the minister's careful interweaving of law and gospel, and she was also really weakening the link between obedience and grace. And she was also exposing a lot of contradictions in Puritan theology. And so, in short order, women's gatherings moved from the household to the courthouse, and fasten inquiries were quickly giving way to banishment and excommunication, and a society that was broadening its definition of deviance in order to discipline dissent and really tighten control over women's interpretive authority and their actions, their conduct. And Ulrich also shows how women's bodies or their embodied experiences were also seen as evidence in Winthrop's account of events. So, for example, the monstrous births associated with Mary Dyer and then to Hutchinson, Winthrop saw those as God's verdict for their dissent, their conduct, their deviance. And so really it's nature delivering God's verdict upon these women. And this is, Ulrich shows how this is gendered providence at work, revealing how leaders even used women's embodied experiences to argue for institutional control. And she also showed that the household played a bigger part in things as well. Women completed things like spinning, midwifery, provisioning, managing cloth and credit, and all that wasn't just background work. It really created these social and economic conditions in which the church and court operated. So in Ulrich's view, the home is a site where the everyday work of women also carried a lot of political and spiritual weight, even when it wasn't named as such. And so why does this matter, right? Well, Ulrich refuses a single monolithic Puritan view of women. Her article doesn't deny that patriarchy existed, but she is demonstrating how unstable it could be in practice. And so instead, she's really showing how dynamic that women could be. Everything in their lives, their gatherings, their births, their illnesses, their lawsuits, their sins, all of this narrated by Winthrop in his journal, those all became the crucibles in which authority was made and unmade. And so when we read Winthrop's journal more closely, women aren't just marginal footnotes there. They're really central to the colony's political and religious struggles. And so Ulrich's reading of Winthrop's journal really shows that gender is not an afterthought in this situation, but it's a causal force in the colony's development. And so thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from the rest of you in this week's discussion and future discussions in this course together.